Be aware, if you are attending this meeting, our meetings are recorded for future viewing, and we are privileged to gather on the traditional territory of the Kwakwaka'wakw. I'll call the meeting to order and ask if there are any additions or amendments to the agenda. Okay. Seeing none, can I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented, please? Moved, seconded. All those in favor? Opposed, carried. Okay, this evening we have a delegation before us from Western Forest Products to give us a general update, and I'd like to welcome Brad McRae, and I believe you have others that you are going to be introducing as well.
Yes, good evening, Your Worship, members of council and the public. As you indicated, I'm Brad McRae. I'm Director of Government Relations for Western Forest Products. We have this evening with us from Western Stuart Glenn and Roger Briscoe. Stuart's the Director of Forest Inventory and Stewardship, and Roger's the Regional Operations Manager.
Would you like us to introduce ourselves here? I don't know that, does everybody know all of the councillors? I'm Mayor Gabby Wickstrom, and I'll go to the left of me and go ahead. Introduce yourself.
Councillor Anne-Marie Barron.
Councillor Derek Cole.
Councillor Ryan Mitchell.
Councillor Shelley Downey.
Thank you for the introductions, Your Worship. I will attempt to share my screen and we will move through the presentation. Just as a note, if there are some questions that we cannot answer at the time, I will make sure to coordinate with your CAO and get the responses back in a timely manner.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm just checking to see if you're able to see the presentation with my screen or my cursor moving around.
Yes, we can. We also have it in a hard copy as well on our desks.
Perfect, thank you. So again, as introductions, as I've made, this evening we'll go through a general overview of Western Forest Products, local updates, some and new information with Indigenous partnerships, some of our pieces on our social media campaign, followed by some questions and answers. So a general overview of Western Forest Products. So what we've done this year is a sustainable and net positive carbon balance, and we've been doing that for some time. We are the largest private employer on Vancouver Island with over 1,800 suppliers and customers across the world. We have 39% of our historical sales to international markets, and that's post-manufacturing. To make sense of that, we have exported 0 logs in the last several months, and I think Stuart can probably speak to that a bit more. We currently have 6 BC sawmills and 1 reman plant. We've currently done 26 million seedlings planted, and that stat was from 2017 to 2020. We're also working for the 2 billion trees, which is a federally funded program, and currently have 3,500 roughly employers and contractors. In regards to the North Island supply chain, the totals from Campbell River up and to the side, which includes Gold River, floats around $112 million. We focus substantial donations, and we separate those into categories of food banks, education, community events, and infrastructure. And that's something I've been working with the CAOs and mayors across the North Island and the Mid-Island to better understand what municipalities are looking for supports. I will turn this over now to Roger to give an update on local activities. Roger.
Roger, you're muted.
Thank you. Thanks, Brad and Gabby. Our Western Forest Products in Port McNeill, we have approximately 120 full-time employees. They're USW hourly employees and staff. We also have many local contractors. A couple of our bigger ones would be Strategic and CFI Falling, and quite a few road construction contractors as well. Our harvesting plans for the next few months here for Q1 and Q2 We're steadily planned logging. We have permits in place and scheduled work, so we're looking at a full steady year for everybody. We have had a pretty bad spell with weather, as everybody knows, last few weeks, so we're just recovering from the snowfall and back to work. This is our second week with full production. So one of our longer weather impacts to our Port McNeill operation for sure. Last year, we had quite a few people helping out in Port McNeill, providing extra employment for the displaced workers from the Quatsino Sound Forest operation. That would be the Holberg and June Landing and Quatsino Dryland crew. There was a little bit of work slow down on that side due to lack of permits and processes that were going on. So we were able to find work for those displaced people. And to my knowledge right now, we didn't lose anybody from that side now that Quatsino Sound is back to work. We're able to retain all that employment on the North Island. So that's very positive. And for what we're doing for community support locally, lots of firewood supply. I know COVID's definitely had an impact on the firewood cuts that were happening the last few years, but that's a readily available source of fundraiser for groups that we try to encourage. Been doing lots of danger tree removal around rec sites and working with Recs Trails BC on maintaining rec sites and keep getting that ready for opening up in the next quarter. And looking for people, lots of employment opportunities, looking hard for driller blasters right now, as well as truck drivers. So we've been advertising and trying to attract people up to the North Island for those current positions. On the recruitment side, we can't always get experienced people to come in. We're a big supporter of the fundamentals of forest harvesting. It's an accredited certificate program. We're working with VIU. It's a 12-week program. 80% of the time is spent out in the woods for people learning the job, 20% in classroom. This year, the course is fully funded, so people wanting to get into the forest industry and try that, they only have to pay their food and travel costs, and they get lots of experience, some basic entry-level courses that they could take with them out in the woods. And we're very high employment rate, so after that 12-week time, most of the people have jobs to go to and they work in the industry, carry on their training, but nice thing when they come into the industry, they got a bunch of skill set and a little bit of knowledge and awareness ahead of time. So they're definite asset from just picking somebody up off the street. So we're hopefully optimistic about this next course coming up in March, that we'll get some good candidates out of that and helps develop some new and young workers into our industry.
Thanks, Roger. Pardon me, Your Worship. So I will move on now to Indigenous partnerships, and I will turn this over to Stuart Glenn to give an overview and some explanations as to some of the most recent developments. Stuart?
Yeah, thanks, Brad, and thanks also for having us this evening. And yeah, and so share a few slides, and also good to have go through some questions afterwards also. So just wanted to highlight this piece, and I'm sure folks have been seeing different announcements in the media and so on, and a really positive piece, and Western really being committed to helping lead the way in forestry and reconciliation and so on. And so just a map showing 10 years Vancouver Island, and there's the Sunshine Coast, mainland coast. And so the work we're doing currently, and I think we're in the loop around the TFL 37 forest landscape plan pilot, and I can happy to answer questions and go into an update on that. But our work is going well together. the pilots this being one of the 4 pilots in the province for a forest landscape plan, which will replace the forest stewardship plan. And a lot of really good work happening as part of the forest landscape plan and jointly developing that plan with the Numgis, the Tla'amin First Nation, and working with them, and the Tla'amin leading an integrated resource management plan. And that will include TFL 39 Block 1 at Powell River. And then there was the recent announcement with Nan-Wakolas and beginning work on an integrated resource management plan with them. And that would be the TFL 39 Block 2 near Campbell River and up through Sayward. And then the Huu-ay-aht and TFL 44 and the Sawakin. And that would be our joint partnership with the Huu-ay-aht and working with them on the Issaquah-Missowak integrated resource management plan. So these really being like collaborative joint planning exercises together, and really forward looking and working through a lot of aspects of forest management and guiding our work and so on into the future. So I would say, it's really continuing to build on our relationships, established ongoing collaboration and so on, and a really positive piece of work that's happening that I think will be very helpful for everyone. And just one slide in regards to the announcement with Nan-Wakolas, and a couple pieces to that. There was and I've touched on the previous slide, the integrated resource management plan for TFL 39-2, and at the same time, the temporary harvest and deferral of 2,500 hectares while we're developing the IRMP over the next couple of years. And that was broken up 1,506 hectares of some initiatives we've been working on, things like large cultural cedar, the Kusum area and so on, and then 1,068 hectares, which were the ancient and remnant tap polygon areas. And so, yeah, I've been really, it's another piece working jointly together, continuing to develop things together and the detailed planning work. So really, yeah, an exciting piece of work that we're underway with. And just, in general, just some thoughts. I mean, I think we've all seen the amount of legislative and policy change over the last year, and it's been, I'm sure it's challenging for all of us. There's workload, there's trying to keep up and so on that goes along with that. And I think that touches all of us, whether, Western or First Nation partners, communities, that piece touches all of us. And it's a piece that's very real right now. And yet saying that, really in leading the way, our focus really being on longer term, the landscape level planning process work that I touched on, and just continuing to grow and develop, the collaborative relationships. And so really, wanting to keep focusing on the future, keep moving ahead. And so TFL 37, being important to Port McNeill, and continue to work on the pilot, and we had targeted completion late 2022, and our work is, I would say, continuing consistent with that, and happy to go into any level of detail and questions and so on as far as how things are progressing with the pilot. But we're deep into our work, and things are going well. And so, yeah, always happy to come and do a more detailed discussion at some time as well. And TFL 6, just the forest license being issued within the TFL 6, the 11,578 cubic meters. There's the ongoing work with Quatsino and building on the 2020 MOU and the private land piece and so on, and working together there. And as part of that conversation as well around deferrals and opportunities to engage in that regard. So ongoing work in relation to TFL 6.
Great, thanks, Drew. So we'll move on a bit to some of our new social media campaigns, our new ad campaigns we've been working for the last several months. So as some of you may have noticed, we've tried to increase our footprint and presence on both Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, as well as we've had targeted ads for several websites to show a lot of Westerns videos and provide folks with a very forest positive story. Some of these engagements we've had on the smaller end starting because we just started the campaign, but we were getting some traction, especially with family friendly events like Gold River Days. Moved on a little bit more to our some of the actions that were existing in Campbell River for talking about strong sustainable forestry. And then flagship of some of the other things that Western was able to do. We do a lot of good things. We just fail at sometimes to letting everybody know what we're doing in the background. And so this is part of our trying to get out in front of the folks like you and other folks in Tassus, Sabellis. We're here to help, and here's some of the ways we can. So I'm sure everybody's heard about some of the actions we took with the firewood and with delivery of emergency food supplies to Tassus and supporting Isabella with their firewood. So we want to make sure we let everybody know that, we are part of the community and this is how we're trying to help. So we talk about continued support for forestry. And I know one of the things that we had met with several of the North Island mayors was how can we be advocates? And when we met, I think 6 months ago, one of the slides we had put forward is, the initial stages of how to start supporting, working friendly forests. Continue to be vocal. As you can see, it's been very supportive, and it's very helping to share some of the good things that are being done within the forest industry. Looking at wood first projects. Some municipalities have a wood first, have a bylaws that support larger scale projects, policies that direct that you should be thinking about developing with wood first. Continuing to speak with your local MLA about the potential impacts of new policies, as Stuart's alluded to, and continue to engage with myself, Stuart, Roger, other folks with Western. The community support or feedback is absolutely crucial for us to understand what's going on in the field, and it helps us help other communities with projects and understand when we're doing things well and when we're not doing things so well, and so we can work to avoid those issues. So with that, Your Worship, that concludes our presentation. I will end the PowerPoint and be available for questions from council.
Thank you very much for that, Brad, Stuart, and Roger. I'll open it up to council, to the floor, to see if there's any questions for you.
Okay.
Councillor Cole, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Wickstrom. I was interested in the wood first focus, and I was wondering if you guys could provide us with any examples, particularly of a smaller municipality, of their bylaws and what they're doing. And if we're in the middle of redoing our zoning and OCP, so, excuse me. Yeah, I know there's bylaws and sort of for large scale stuff in more of the cities, but I'm interested in, any smaller scale stuff that we could adopt for our town.
Yes, through Your Worship, thank you, Councillor Cole. There have been some municipalities, such as the City of Williams Lake, that took a very progressive stance to putting forth a proclamation that wood will be considered in all projects that are that are city focused. It also requests the developers through policy and through development to consider using wood first in their projects. So what I will do, Councillor Cole, is I will provide some information to your CAO to disseminate to council about several of the examples of other municipalities that have not just said we support wood being first, but have actually put it into practice.
Thank you. And if I may, I had one more question. I wonder if you could comment on the future of the A-frame in downtown Port McNeill. Is that likely to be used again, or a bit of a local question there?
I think, Your Worship, I'll turn that over to Roger for a response.
The There's no current plans to use the A-frame in the next near future. It's just something that's always being looked at as things change and different metrics come into the business. So it's a site that we are continue to hold, and it is evaluated from time to time to see if it does make sense to run it or not. So near future, we're not, but it's don't have a good handle of what long-term may bring to it and what changes may come where it becomes useful again.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anyone else have a question? Councillor Mitchell?
The only thing that comes to my mind was, you mentioned being a partner with the community providing access to firewood. Can you outline what that program is? I don't know who I'm supposed to go. I'm looking for it.
For firewood cuts, we, as different organizations approach us with a proposal or request for firewood, we supply logs and a site for them to conduct their firewood cutting up at our upper sort, and the groups look after the ordering, taking orders for the firewood, and they provide volunteers to do the cutting and splitting and delivery of that pickup loads of wood.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have a question for you around how do you think that the new requirements around Class 1 licensing will affect your ability to be able to hire for those positions that you have currently open?
For the log truck driver?
Yes, yeah.
That's a requirement that we're needing for all our drivers, as we have quite a few highway trucks as well now. So that's just a qualification and a requirement for that position. That has changed from what it was in the past with just the off-highway fleet, but we only have 2 drivers of our whole fleet now do not have a Class 1. So the majority of our drivers are all Class 1 indoor ticketed.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, I don't see any. Thank you very much for coming this evening. We appreciate you filling us in and giving us a little bit of information on what's happening in our region. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Council.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 4A, January 4th, special council meeting. We've got the special council meeting minutes. Are there any amendments to those minutes? And if there are none, can I have a motion, please, to adopt?
Which meeting was that?
January 4th, 2021.
Okay.
Moved. Seconder for that motion, please. Yep. Okay. Any comments? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Meeting for January 11 minutes. You will see on our desks on our tables here were amended minutes to reflect on items 20, 2022, and then 21, 2022. And that was to reverse, and also 22 and 23. That was reversed, so that should have read 25,000 for the Gatehouse and 18,000 for the Broughton Curling Club. Are there any other amendments to that January 11th agenda? Okay, seeing none, can I have a motion, please, to adopt them? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
The next page over, item 35, 2022. I was in favor of buying N95 masks and I voted for it. So you can reflect that I didn't vote against that.
Yeah, certainly. Sorry, what number can you?
35.
Okay.
2022.
Yes. Yeah, that can be corrected. So with those 2 amendments, can I have a motion to adopt the minutes as amended? Moved. All opposed? The motion carries. Correspondence, we have item 5A, letter from the Girl Guides of Canada requesting blue lighting. What is your pleasure with this, council? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Councillor Barron.
I'd like to move that we, same lighting as last year on February 22nd.
Second that.
Okay, so moved by, is your mic on, by the way? Or, okay, I think it just needs to be a little closer. Okay, any discussion on that? Anyone, okay, all those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Of item 5A, which is a letter from the Numgeese Health Center. And they're looking for a donation, any donation that we can make for their event that they're hosting, Our Community, Our Water. So thinking something like a parking pass or a dollar amount and perhaps some gift certificates from businesses. Councillor Cole?
I'd like to make a motion for a swim pass and launch pass, water related prizes.
Family swim pass, are you
I
thinking?
think so, yeah.
Family swim pass. Okay. Could I make a suggestion that perhaps instead of a launch, which I'm not sure if there's predominantly people from Alert Bay, that a parking pass might be more suitable, because I know that there are some that commute and park their cars here, some people, so that might be something that, but it's up to you. Right now we've got a boat launch and a family swim pass. Here for that? Okay, any discussion? Sorry, I should have asked for the seconder first. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? It's carried.
So that's a swim pass, a launch pass
Yes, that is.
related to water.
Yep,
And that was a family swim pass.
yep, I did say that, yeah. Yeah. Okay, item 5C, North Island Community Services letter, moving from the old school. What would you like to do with this letter here? It's apparent now that the old school is rising up on our list of priorities.
Go
ahead, Council.
Space they're asking for.
Sorry, it was Councillor Downey first, then Councillor Mitchell.
In reading the document, I see that there's actually two requests. One is, can they continue to keep the teen center community link space for a time? And the second answer, that second question is, how long can we keep the space for? And I would like to know, does staff have any recommendation around that? And what fees would we charge to extend that?
Okay. Staff, did you have an answer for Councillor Downey?
Thank you, Mayor Wickstrom. So through our recreation policy, we do have the ability to allow not-for-profit users to use Old School without a cost. And currently, we don't have a cost for cleaning either. So, you know, within our power, we could allow them to use those rooms without charge. And like I say, that's part of our recreation policy. At this juncture, especially in the face of COVID, the Old School is very underutilized. I think we currently have 2 other user groups that use it frequently, and to maintain its use, we could facilitate this request.
Okay. Councillor Mitchell?
I move that we give them the space they've requested.
Okay, is there a seconder for that motion?
For discussion?
Yep, go ahead. Councillor Cole?
Was there not another email where they proposed like $200 or something? Did I see that? I guess to staff, and I guess what is the rack rate on the room if somebody just wanted to rent it? Kind of what I'm wondering. They were a paying tenant before, so I'm not so sure why it should be a free rental. And if we're going to do that, I definitely think that there should be a time limit. And I'd like to follow up with a motion for a bit more information on the actual use of the facility
Mhm.
at this
I
time.
guess, may I speak to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that I'm willing to let staff decide whether it should be granted to them under our policy of help supporting community groups, basically. And this is the teen center, I think they're asking for it for, which provides a great service to the community. And I know North Island Community Services is going to take that $200 that we don't charge them and use it somewhere else, so it's going to do some good. So I'm in favor of just letting them have it as long as they need it for. At this point, they're probably going to have a timeline. They're looking for space.
Perhaps we could offer it for free to them, but take the value of that out of our COVID grant fund for vulnerable people. Just a suggestion.
So there was a motion on the table just to grant them the space that they're looking for. Any more comments, Councillor Barron?
I'm going to say, could we friendly amend that to 6 months?
Yeah.
And then we could relook at it again in 6 months. And if we continue, however it works out between now and then we've got an opportunity to continue it or change it up.
Depending on what
Yeah,
the use of the, yeah.
depending what's happening.
Are you
rather
comfortable
than
with
leaving
that?
it
Sorry?
Are you comfortable with that
I'm happy if
amendment?
somebody wants to make an amendment. I don't mind.
Okay, all right. So that's for a time period of 6 months. Okay. Call the question then. All those in favor of Councillor Mitchell's motion with the 6 month? Opposed? And the motion is carried. Okay.
Mayor Wickstrom, may I make a related motion
Sure.
to the old school? I'd like to make a motion. We get a detailed report on the use and the current use and revenue from the old school
Yes.
and expenses. That makes sense.
Okay, seconder for that motion, please. Councillor Barron. Any discussion? Those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. Next, we have item 7A, December 2021 check listing.
Move receive.
Move receipt. Okay.
Second.
Questions? Yeah.
Question? Yes, thank you. Page 5 of 6, overall page 25 of 216. A second from the top, I was wondering if we could get some details on the ergonomic chair purchase for $7,212. I'm just wondering what budget that came out of or any details on that. Staff, please.
That was 10,000 we approved from a budget last year for what was it titled office.
I do believe ergonomic upgrade.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
it wasn't
so-
just chairs.
No,
Was it
the-
only
so-
chairs or was there other things attached to that?
No, there's also, we haven't purchased them yet, but there's also arms for our screens to bring the screens closer to our faces and for other people, stands to put their legs on. So currently we've purchased the chairs.
And also
7,200?
Correct.
Yeah, well, thanks for clarifying. I was just, the timing was, I remember us doing that quite a while ago, so it came around now. Just wondered. Thank you.
okay. All those in favor of receipt? Opposed? Carried. Next, we have a report to council from our economic development manager, Marilyn MacArthur. Marilyn is here this evening to answer any questions that council might have regarding her report. And if there are no questions, can I have a motion then to receive and file?
I'll make
Councillor
that
Cole?
motion.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Barron. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. Moving along to item C, 7C. This is a report to council on our fire department, December 2021.
I'd like to comment.
Go ahead, Councillor Barron.
Thank you very much for getting the year totals in there. I think it totally sets up for a different amount of conversation.
Mhm.
And I believe, if I'm recalling correctly, they used to average about 60 calls a year. I have a feeling I'm right. So when you look at 113 calls for this year, plus fire practice, plus any little things that they do, those volunteers are putting a lot of time in. And also, as was pointed out to me, our highway rescue is a quarter of our calls.
32%. I actually figured it out. So I know Councillor Barron and myself had met with Minister Osborne. Yes, and pointed that out, that many of the smaller municipalities are doing highway rescue and are not compensated by the province for those. It's good to have these statistics and actually be able to give quantitative numbers to that. Any other comments?
Then I would just move to receive and file.
Okay,
Second.
all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next, we're moving on to our report to council from Public Works, December 2021. Questions regarding Julian, our Public Works Manager's report. Is he here this evening? He's not here, is he?
Question.
On the screen. Yes, okay, thank you.
A question for staff. Could I get a copy of the Fort McNeil winter snow and ice control policy, please? Thank you.
Any other questions for Julian? Go ahead, Councillor Mitchell.
Is Julian here?
Yeah, he's right there on
Oh,
the
there we
screen.
go.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. I'm just curious about the irregular.
Is your mic?
Irregular access to the approach that wasn't there when we started out. We had a level access to the approach. Now we have multiple levels of sidewalks and ramps and things to get onto the approach, which is not an improvement. It's a detriment and it's a safety hazard. And I'm just wondering if that's going to be addressed with the contractor, because I didn't see it in the plans, nor did I hear it from the engineers.
Julian, go ahead. If you'd like to speak to that, please.
Yeah, for sure. Just checking you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Okay, good. Yeah, Councillor Mitchell, the project is not absolutely complete yet. We are actually, we have a meeting with the engineering group on Friday on site to go through the deficiencies with the project, and that actually is one of them. So we'll be more than likely addressing that in the near future to make it a level access point with no transition ramp.
I'm
Does
not
that
sure.
answer your question?
I'm not sure I get it, but I wouldn't mind being present and see what they have to say on Friday.
Julian, if you can just clarify, part of the problem with that concrete as well was it cannot be, can't remember where I heard this or read this, that it cannot be poured during cold weather?
No, the temperatures right now are conducive to pouring concrete. It's just any temperature above about 3, 4, 5 degrees is fine.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Any other questions for Julian? Opposed, carried. Thank you very much, Julian. Next, we have item 7E, report to council on harbor operations. And I see that our harbor manager, Rebecca, is with us this evening and ask if there are any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Wickstrom. I guess a question for Rebecca. I noticed upcoming installation of fish cleaning float. So I'm just wondering some details on that. Is that like a separate dock, or we're just adding a fish clean table?
So Julian has been talking with Mac Laney and they're in discussions with Blue Water Systems, and the fish cleaning station will be a part of the municipal ramp and P-dock upgrade. Since we removed our fish cleaning station where the hut was, we'll be adding a fish cleaning float at the bottom of the ramp adjacent to ODOC.
Well, that sounds like great news. I have one more question, if I may. I guess just a comment on your capital projects, Harbor shower upgrade, it says. Well, we are looking at bathrooms in that.
We are looking at bathrooms in that. It'll depend on what the tenders are, but we did just have the hazard assessment done and the samples have been sent off. So we're waiting for the results from that to come back in order to do the building transfer of ownership so that we can move forward. But we are looking at public bathrooms in that.
I guess it might be a question for council. I would like to see that project titled bathrooms, harbor shower / bathroom upgrade, just to show our commitment to bathrooms. Can I make a motion, Mayor Wisham?
Don't have to ask. Go ahead, make a motion. Yeah.
Motion to change the project title to harbor shower and bathroom upgrade.
Second that.
Seconded by Councillor Mitchell. Any discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Any other questions for our harbor manager? Oh, okay, go ahead, Councillor Barron.
I just
And then
wanted to
Councillor Mitchell.
say thank you for the switch in the reporting with, each of the capital projects having pieces under it. It's you forget sometimes what all is happening. So it's nice to see you live it, you see it all the time. I don't. So it's nice to have this sort of, I like the change in the reporting.
Okay. Councillor Mitchell?
I'm just wondering, we never discussed building a separate float for the fish cleaning station, and it wasn't included in our budget plans. So I'm just wondering where the money is coming from for that.
So we have enough budget remaining in the budget that the 600,000 that was allotted. We have enough left over in the budget for the fish cleaning station, but we are awaiting quotes to ensure that it remains within the budget.
Okay, I guess I have a problem, council, with that concept that we're now putting in something for the fish cleaning station. We're going to put it on a separate float, but we don't have any money to build a float for families to go down and take their kids fishing in a safe place. And I did ask for that, and I was told that if there was money left in the budget, we could do it. But instead, we're building a fish cleaning float with the extra money. How come council didn't have a chance to discuss this extra funds that were available? I'd like to know. This should be a council decision.
Well, we are replacing, though, a fish cleaning station that currently couldn't be where it is now. I will ask for clarification on that.
Yes, that's correct. Because we removed a fish cleaning station, this is what we're putting in to replace it. And it's being put in a more ideal location for the debris to be removed, and where it's going to be more accessible. And that's actually going to end up being a larger fish cleaning station, so people won't be as cramped as well.
However, it wasn't a council priority to put a separate float in, so I'm going to move that this comes back to council for review before we allocate surplus budget funds without having a discussion about it. I think we need to put it on the agenda and talk about it.
Second for discussion. Okay. Any comments on that before I speak? Sorry, go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, I think without knowing how much we're talking about and everything and some basic facts, it's probably a good point. We should maybe look at that. And when we first did that harbor project, it was deferred in favor of the contractor and we were supposed to get some sort of, bonus out of the deal, I recall. So,
I thought that was the fish.
so if we were talking about them doing a free, fish float, great, but it seems like it's part of our budget now, so.
Did you want to make a comment, Councillor Downey?
No, I just agree with
yeah.
that. It should come back for a discussion.
Yeah, I actually do recall that now, that there was supposed to be some sort of a give for us delaying. So I'd like to know if that's part of what Blue Water Systems was going to give for delaying the project. I don't necessarily disagree because if that same fish cleaning station was in a good location before, it would be at the head of the ramp where it was previously, but it isn't. And so what I hear staff saying is that they have determined a better location. But there is a motion on the table, so. Could you read out that motion, please, again for me, Connor? Please.
Thank you, Mayor Wiskram. So I have that surplus harbor budget come back to council for review and discussion.
Okay. Any other discussion before I call the question?
I would just like to know how much money surplus is there?
That's fine. It'll come back when
Yeah.
she's able to give it to us. Yeah. That's what the motion is requesting, correct?
The motion is requesting that we make the decision as a council what to do with that surplus money. I'm just curious how much is there.
And can you include then in the motion that the amount is also noted in there?
And if I may, is it assumed we'd get the costs of the fish cleaning dock, the projected cost as well? Is that assumed?
But I would imagine that staff will prepare a report, which will have those things for us when it comes back for us for consideration.
Thank you.
Okay.
Could we have the motion read back then to see what exactly we're motioning?
That surplus harbor budget come back to council for review and discussion, and that the amounts be included.
Comfortable with that motion, council?
So my question perhaps is what happens, because it sounds like harbor staff is in the motion, in the midst of negotiating and positioning and acquiring a float. Nothing about that motion says don't carry on with it.
Our CAO, go ahead.
Could we invite Public Works Manager Julian Allen into, as he's been working with Blue Water Systems and McElhaney directly on this project, and he might have some further insights.
Okay. Go ahead, Julian. Could you please, we're inviting you back in. You're on mute. Go ahead.
There we go. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Okay. A little bit of clarity. Fish cleaning station, and I appreciate that this has gone on for quite a long time. So, as Councillor Barron said, that we're in the thick of it day in, day out. And, perhaps council isn't made aware of every little nuance to the projects. The fish cleaning station was discussed when I put forward three options for council to deliberate on. And that in fact came up as a concern of council, that the covered area, like the hut, was going to be lost in order to facilitate a much longer ramp, which for reasons discussed was a big part of this project. Much safer, less of an incline at low tide, and all the rest of it. Actually, we managed to save the hut, but that's another discussion, I think. There will be a covered area down at the harbor. So that was good. However, the loss of the cleaning station was discussed, and at that time, I recall correctly, the initial proposal that we had put forward was that we were going to possibly place the fish cleaning stations on T-dock because of the width of the dock, and that would actually facilitate that quite nicely. In multiple discussions along the way over, this has been going on for a couple of years. It was a far better placement of the fish cleaning station, exactly where Rebecca just pointed out, at the bottom of the ramp on the right-hand side, nestled in between the new P-dock and O-dock. Accessibility for everybody, etc. But quite importantly was the fact that it's in the intertidal zone, so it actually will make the removal and breakdown of all of the debris way better than what it is currently. And that came as, you know, a little bit of research and recommendations from certain other professionals. So that's how come we came to replacing the land-based or trestle-based fish cleaning stations to a float. It was better thought that we actually had a float-mounted fish cleaning station, as opposed to some serious modifications to P-dock. And you know, some of the rationale behind that is that we can actually move it. You know, it can actually be moved in the future if need be. So hopefully that's a little bit of clarity on the fish cleaning station.
Okay, Councillor Downey?
So my question is, and I do believe we need a fish cleaning station, but if a fish float cleaning station was part of the original plan and budget for the harbor, why is it now, it's you know, its placement now, why is it now contingent on the budget? Or contingent on having a surplus? Part of the plan, or was it not part of the plan?
Oh, absolutely. No, no, it was part of the plan. It was absolutely discussed, and it was part of the plan that we could not have removed the fish cleaning stations that were there and not reinstate some fish cleaning stations. It's just that now they're on a float as opposed to on the trestle.
Okay.
And that's part of the overall budget was for the fish cleaning station.
Okay, follow up from Councillor Downey and then Councillor Mitchell.
What was presented to us is that we have surplus funds in the project. Therefore, we were looking at doing a float for the fish cleaning station. That's how this is presented to us this evening.
Okay, well, my apologies to Mayor and Council for that, but that's definitely, yeah, that's definitely come across wrong. There was always the provision within the overall budget to put in some kind of fish cleaning station, for sure.
Sorry, Rebecca, you want to respond to Councillor Downey?
So part of this plan was that we were holding off the fish cleaning station until we had the final numbers from the pile driving, because sometimes the pile driving goes very smoothly, which is what exactly happened at our harbor. But sometimes you don't know that it's going to go terribly wrong and the prices go up exponentially. So we left more budget for pile driving, but our pile driving did go in smoothly. So we were willing to leave the fish cleaning station if the pile driving did go wrong. But because it did go smoothly, we were able to look at the fish cleaning station, which is why it wasn't presented in the full plan earlier in the project.
Councillor Mitchell?
Okay, I would like to withdraw my motion and substitute this motion that we halt work on the fish cleaning float, refer the excess funds back to council for discussion how we're going to do that, how we're going to allocate those funds, because we talked very specifically about if there was extra money, we'd certainly look at doing a fishing float to serve more than just the mariners in our community, but also the families who have little kids and they want to be able to take them out and walk on the dock safely and throw a line in the water without having a boat come crashing up against them.
So you've withdrawn your motion and you'd like to
So
make a
on the
second?
motion, and my new motion is the work be halted on the fish cleaning float. Council consider the use of surplus funds before proceeding with how to spend them.
Seconder for that motion?
I'd like to second to discuss.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Barron.
Would it not make more sense to get an actual project update to establish whether or not there is excess funds? Because it almost sounds like maybe there's a misspeak here. The fish cleaning station was out. The fish cleaning station is being replaced. And maybe there's just a bit of a communication drop here in the words that are being used. I'm not actually understanding that there is excess funds in the game here. Julian, would that be correct?
What I hear, our harbor manager just confirmed that as well, Julian, is that it's the fish cleaning was the thing that would have dropped if we would have gone, if the pile driving had been a higher budget.
Yeah, that's very much correct. No, Wickstrom, is with all of these projects, they're multi-layered. There's a lot of complexity to them. They appear very simple quite often, but there's a ton of work that goes into this, and they're very dynamic. So as the projects actually roll out, there are some unknowns. Perhaps drawings are not quite exactly what they should be, depicting the final product. This is just a judgment call in project management that the bulk of the project was, if we recall, was the replacement of P-float, the extended gangway, replacement of the trestle, and the abutment repairs. So there was discussion about the fish cleaning station, and that we couldn't just remove and not have fish cleaning station reinstalled. So it really is like a management decision at that time that, and Rebecca illustrated that very clearly, that the big unknown in this particular project was the pile driving. And we were warned by this, of this by McElhaney Engineering, who have been through this many, many times, and Blue Water Systems, of course. So that was the only reason why there was a possibility that we wouldn't have a fish cleaning station at the end of this project, was if the cost overruns ran away on us. And if it got worse than the losing the fish cleaning station, then there was a possibility that we would be coming back to council for the approval of more funds to finish the project.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Mitchell, then Councillor Downey.
I think that it behooves us to look at the original contract, because I believe that when we approved the removal of the fish cleaning station from the trestle, that it was understood that in the budget there would be money to replace it on the docks. That was in the budget already. So we didn't budget for a fish float, which is quite a larger amount more money than just putting a fish cleaning on the edge of a dock. So that's why I'm in favor of, we bring this back to council. We're the ones that make the decisions where our capital expenses go. And we agreed at this council table that if there was extra money, we would look at putting a fishing float in. There's extra money and it never came back to us. And we don't even know how much extra money there is. So I want to see all the facts here.
Okay.
And so that's why I'm in favor of halting the work on this. Let's get the facts and let's council make the decision. That's what we're elected to do.
Okay, Councillor Downey, you had a question?
Do we still have a fish cleaning station over at the boat launch?
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do have a small fish cleaning station at the boat launch.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no further comments, I'll call the question. All those, oh, sorry, can you please read out the motion?
To your worship, that we halt work on the fish cleaning float and that council review the use of the surplus funds.
I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay. Go ahead, Councillor. Okay, Downey, go ahead.
May I like to make a motion that staff bring a report back to council on the status of the project, the surplus funds, and what the plan is.
Seconder for that motion by Councillor Barron. Any discussion?
I'm not sure what staff's supposed to report on. Could you explain that?
I would like to know where the project is at. We had set a budget, how much have we spent, and where is it sitting currently?
Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Moving on to site item 7F, we have a draft copy of the it says Tourism Advisory Commission. Oh yeah, Tourism Advisory Commission, the Air Commission now proposed budget for 2022. Go ahead, Councillor Downey. Did you have your hand up? Sorry.
As long as I've read this document right. Yes, I would like to propose that this budget, as presented by the Tourism Advisory Committee, Commission has been presented for information with the understanding that it will come back to this table on February 22nd. So this is just for information.
Can I ask, as a liaison, Councillor Downey, will the budget be accompanied with a business plan? A little bit more details around each line item?
Quite likely, if that's the request, that's not a problem. These numbers aren't just pulled out of the air and
Yeah,
flat beside a label.
Yeah.
There is some thought behind them.
No, I understand that. I would like to make a motion that it does return with, I say detailed business plan, but it doesn't have to be pages long. Just I feel that this, and also with our museum commission, that when a budget comes before us, that it should have a bit more of a business plan for ourselves, as well as any of the public who might be reading it, and those that pay into the MRDT. They can read a little bit more similar, well, not similar to what Vint has, because Vancouver Island North Tour is about 20 pages long. So I'm not asking that of the commission. So a motion that it be accompanied with a business plan.
Is that amending Councillor Downey's?
Well, it's just,
motion?
oh, sorry, moved. Okay, moved for information was the first one. Seconder for Councillor Downey's motion.
Sure.
Okay, any questions?
Repeat the motion, please. Councillor Downey's motion.
That council accept this proposed 2022 Tourism Advisory Commission budget for information, and it will be brought back to council for full consideration at the February 22nd, 2022 council meeting.
All those in favor of that motion?
For discussion?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So, for example, under expenses, social media site, or like that $10,000, I guess it's a question, is any of this money going to be staff time allocated out of that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so you know what, this is a document for exactly this purpose. It's to stimulate a conversation. We've hired Chris Wu, who's coming on board with our community, who will be leading the tourism manager of the tourism tourism center. I don't know what its title is here. Sorry, Chris, if you're listening, but he's coming on board. And so this group here will have the opportunity to converse with him. We're not going to spend money that doesn't make sense. That is not the intention. And at the same time, there's probably going to be some overlap between the two. So if it's something that this commission can offer off to say, Chris, maybe he's got a business plan or a plan and a project. Well, rather than us hiring somebody to implement this. It would be, okay, this is what we want you to execute. So it would be a mini contract. And I'm just talking, I'm not talking for the group. This is just me spitballing. But this is for discussion, exactly for those kind of questions, Derek, and I appreciate your question. So
So in other words, we may code staff time to some of these budget items.
it very well could be, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Or likewise, if it's in his purview to already be doing, then that would increase your marketing budget for social media.
For something
yeah.
else. Yeah, and I'm just going to say that this isn't going to happen in a vacuum. We do have staff to also consult with.
And could you comment on hub sign? What's that? We've 6,500 for a hub sign. Sort of the middle of the expenses there. I just wondered.
Yeah.
What that is.
So that in itself is we have there's a lot of planning and thoughts that come around. Down in our harbor, when you go there, you're there. It's like you have no idea. So there's a vision to have a sign there that when you stand there, you can say, okay, Santula is 20 miles this way by water. If you go to Santula, it's this, and this. You have a little smattering of what's there. Alert Bay is this where if you go there, this is kind of what they have to offer. So what it is somebody walking along our harbor, if the info center is closed, they can go and there's a sign that go, oh, okay, there's some things in these outer areas surrounding Telegraph Cove. There's areas that people can attend to and go and visit. So we're trying to keep people using Port McNeill as a base camp. Come stay here and use this as your launching pad to go out and explore other areas around the region. So that's the hub sign.
And
the price,
so
there's
I'm assuming that's a digital sign of some sort, correct? Or no?
you know what? When it was conceived, it wasn't digital.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I wanted to put it out there. We had put some COVID money aside for technology and that kind of thing. So a digital sign that could all of a sudden the ferry schedule's gone and it's saying tsunami or it's saying, COVID alert could work with that. Something that would really inform our community. So that might be a way of
That was
bolstering a sign project like
something
this.
that the Chamber of Commerce was working on and looking into. And I know the cost was quite a
Significant.
bit more than that. But again, I think once Mr. Wu gets here, that will start to give us that idea of putting these, this is a great, like harborfront signage, that could mean 1,000 different things, but at least it's just, I think what you're trying to do is give us.
it's a placeholder. It's a placeholder. The conversation, it has happened over many months within this group of people. And so the rest of those details will
You're
come.
focusing on the downtown and the harbor front as opposed to the track
Correct.
is what this is kind of giving us the idea of.
Yeah. Yeah.
So all those in favor of receipt? Opposed? Carried. So I will ask to make a motion, please, that when this comes back on February 22nd, if it can be accompanied with a business plan. I think that would answer some of the questions like what came out this evening that the public might have as well. Anybody second that motion?
Sure.
Okay. Any discussion on that? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Wickstrom. I feel the word business plan is a little strong. I think that's implying a lot more work that needs to be done. I think just we need more information. It's a volunteer group, so that might be a little onerous to describe it as a business plan.
My thought would be that the new manager, who probably has that skill set, would be able to do that. I know that with Vancouver Island North Tourism and the regional district, granted, it's a much bigger organization, but there's a business plan presented, and I just don't feel comfortable approving a $30,000 budget without a business plan.
When does this budget need to be approved?
It's coming back to council on the 22nd of February. So tourist season is coming. Delaying this till summer won't help anybody.
No, but if we could have speaking points as opposed to a business plan, we could have speaking points for the 22nd. Mr. Wu is probably not even in the seat at this point or barely got his feet wet. So
Yeah, March 1st, he'll be in town. He is going to be doing some work from a distance. I have requested that he reach out to the liaisons to start that distance progress so that he's not starting on March 1st.
I hear what Councillor Cole, and use of the word business plan has other connotations to it. If you're asking for details around this, there will be details and supporting initiatives attached to them. You'll know what hub sign fully means, what harbor sign
Okay.
signage fully means. Those details will be accompanying this when it comes back.
Okay,
Perfect.
I'll withdraw my motion then. Okay. Item 8A, we have a proposed amendment to the procedure bylaw, electronic meetings. Move for discussion.
I'll second that.
Okay, so on page 47, you have the proposed amendment to the bylaw, which will allow us in the event of health, safety, environmental emergency, or urgent town business that prevents the attendance of the majority of council, we will be able to meet electronically.
So we just have to, we have to anticipate 2 weeks in advance whether or not we're going to need to have electronic meetings?
No.
Or are we going to vote every 2 weeks to
No,
extend it for 2 more weeks?
No, it would be after 2 consecutive meetings held on 2 consecutive meetings. That's when we would be need a vote of majority council to continue the electronic meetings.
Right. So every 2 meetings, you have to revote to extend it.
If it was 100% online, is that?
Yes.
I understand.
If there's 2 that are our current bylaw allows 2 people to be take part either by phone or electronic means already. So we don't need to vote. It's only if we all cannot be here and it has to do with health, safety, and environmental emergency or urgent town business.
And who's making all these decisions about whether it's one of those things?
It's a good question. So in some cases, it actually has stated in a bylaw that in the event of, the mayor can or the CAO. So it's if you want to state in there, then we can just add that wording in there and make that amendment. Go ahead, Councillor Downey.
So I understand that this is really something that's emergent. It's something that is taking us away from our current practice, which is what we're doing today, or where we may have somebody attend electronically, 2 people. So this is only for emergency situations, and 2 consecutive, we are allowed to do it twice, and then we have to sit and have a conversation about it. We can't, this isn't about going solely electronically in all our meetings at the discretion of whoever called it. So that would be correct?
That's correct. So it's not in perpetuity. And then at the end of the second meeting is when we would vote then whether we continue or have the need to continue. Councillor Mitchell, Councillor Cole.
Okay.
Apologies.
Thank you, Mayor Wickstrom. I can see a bit of a showdown here. I don't feel too like who determines this health, safety, emergency. What about just striking D altogether? That still gives us the power to decide at this table at the second meeting whether we're going to continue that or not.
What prompts
I
us?
think something has to trigger it, so that those become the triggers to compel this action.
Well, I would argue there's a trigger right now. Something, I mean, it could be totally different in 2 weeks. So if 2 weeks from now, right before this meeting, the mayor or the CAO is going to decide that, or I can choose that individually at my house and make that my own health decision for up to 2 meetings. Then
No, we
We all
already
decide.
have that ability to not be here. Right?
Oh, two of us do, but what
Yeah.
if three do? Like, things change.
Well, I think the idea is for us to, whenever possible, to be able to meet in person.
Chambers.
It has always been for extenuating circumstances.
Well, may I comment?
Yeah.
I felt extreme pressure from some of the people on this council to attend meetings during COVID in the town office, in the basement, in the council chambers, extreme pressure. And I didn't like it. And this is just more of the same. I don't like this either. I want to be the guy who makes the decision if I feel safe to come to a meeting or not. I don't want somebody else voting on whether or not my feelings are valid. And that's what this does. This puts control of my health choices in someone else's hands. And so I think we can just vote to do that. We can vote to stop doing it completely, anytime, right? Change the bylaw. So it's not that we can't change it down the road if it becomes something that's abused by people and they don't ever show up to a meeting, right? It can be changed. But this idea of somehow having complete control of the situation, and I don't feel like I'm the one making the choice, because if I don't agree with this and it doesn't get passed, then if two people are out of town and I happen to be out of town, or I happen to be not feeling that things are safe in the council chambers, I get to skip the meeting and my voice isn't heard. And I don't like that. And I think we need to treat each other like adults here and assume that we're going to do the right thing, that we're going to show up for meetings, that we're going to do our job. We don't need to have such control that we have to anticipate that people will abuse it. And so we write this detailed, complicated bylaw to make sure that we can control their behavior. That's what this feels like to me. I don't like it.
It is an example from other areas of jurisdiction that other municipalities that use this as well. So that's why it was brought forward. Councillor Barron, did you have your hand up? I'm sorry.
I still just, I'm not understanding. This is supposed to be in the event of emergency. Normal business operations are, we meet now in the community hall as opposed to the chambers. So normal business operations are that. If any one of us is not able to attend, two of us can be electronic, which in our term only happened once where there was three of us.
Mhm.
Right? So, but this is giving us the power, I would assume, that if Dr. Bonnie Henry declares another outbreak, we're ready to go, as opposed to waiting for her to declare the outbreak and then Josie Osborne or somebody else to declare that we can meet. We can just automatically start meeting as an electronic as our routine. But it's our routine for 2 meetings, and then we need to agree to continue it as our routine. I almost feel like what you are looking for is the other bylaw that says there can only be 2 of us attending electronically. It feels like maybe that's what you would like to have amended so that there could be more flexibility around feeling whether you're safe or not. Does that make sense?
No.
Okay.
You currently have the ability, if you don't feel safe, to not come to the meeting.
Two people do.
Yeah. Mhm.
What if 3 people want to? And I know you guys think that you're never going to feel that way, but I don't want you coming into a meeting with sniffles if 2 of us are, just because you feel you have to. I think the compromise is really to remove D. Then nobody's declaring Bonnie Henry or this or that. If 3 people don't feel safe, they can do it electronically. The following meeting, 3 people did it again, then we decide. Like, it's not a bad compromise. And I can't support it as written.
Okay, well, there's no motion on the table, so if somebody wants to put a motion on the table then?
Well, I'll make a motion. Thank you, Mayor Wickstrom. That we remove section 2.1D from the proposed bylaw 708, the change in bylaw 708.
So your motion is to to move bylaw 708-202 with the amendment that 2.1D is removed.
Correct.
Okay, seconder for that motion? Sorry, can I get a seconder, please, for that motion?
I'm not sure what the motion is. Is it to pass the motion with that clause removed, with D removed? Is that what you're
Yeah.
moving?
Yeah,
I
with
could
D
support
removed.
that.
Yep. Mhm.
If that's what the motion is.
Mhm. CAO?
Thank you, Mayor Wickstrom. Prior to voting on this motion, there is sections of D that need to remain in there, and that's just giving us our authority through the community charter. So if Councillor Cole could reword just to remove the section from D that he deems not necessary.
So you're saying that the pursuant section 128.1 and that needs to remain in there
Correct.
are met?
Correct.
So perhaps it could say in the event that a member of council chooses not to attend. I don't know.
No.
Thought it was simple, but
Yeah.
It would
Okay,
just say
how
pursuant
would
to
you?
section.
Hmm?
Wouldn't it just say pursuant to section 128.1 to 128.3 of the community charter, and provided the conditions are set out in accordance with the community charter, and then say something like the following will apply?
Yes. So would that work, CAO, pursuant to section 128.1 to 128.3 of the community charter, and provided the sections set out in accordance with the community charter are met, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yes, that would work.
Okay, would you accept that amendment to your motion?
yes, thank you, Mayor Wickstrom.
Okay. Any further comments? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried.
Can I ask a question about the next bylaw piece?
Yeah, sure. We'll go to 8B. Yep.
No, I think this is still part of that bylaw,
Oh.
isn't it? Procedure bylaw number 79/2017.
Oh, yes, sorry, we have to.
Don't we have a more recent one than that? Because this one says meetings will be on Mondays.
We have an amendment to that one. Yeah, there's already amendment on file.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is not a consolidated bylaw.
Yeah. So yes, then thank you. I almost forgot that step. That reminded me. Can I have a motion, please, to give procedure amendment bylaw number 708-2022 first as amended, first and second reading? Second it? Yeah.
Went back. Okay, so 708, is that one
Yeah.
posted?
Mhm.
Mayor Wickstrom?
Yep, go ahead.
You know, we really didn't discuss beyond that paragraph attached to the beginning of D.
Okay. Oh, it's fine. Well,
Because the
just go
member
ahead.
chairing a council may participate electronically, but must participate with the video capabilities, watch and be seen. If the majority of members are participating with video capabilities. I would like to see in here, if we're attending a council meeting electronically, that all cameras be on, except for maybe there's, you know, somebody sneezing or something, like, you know, there's odds, but the majority of time, a camera, members need, I'm going to use the wording, members need to be seen. Sitting in a council meeting with a bunch of black screens in front of you isn't like a meeting. It's not the same.
So how would you propose that section 3, then the member chairing a council or a council committee or commission meeting and council and any other councilors may participate electronically but must participate with video capabilities? And all councilors and all of council, or how?
All of council at one time may participate at a council meeting under 5D1 with Video capability, I don't know how you word that. Watch and be seen. It says video capabilities, watch and be
Do you have a
seen.
suggestion for us, CAO?
Thank you. Yes, we could put all members participating electronically must participate with video capabilities, watch and be seen. And take out the if majority of members are participating with video capabilities, just so we're not being redundant.
But I think I'm asking for more than just video capabilities because everybody had video capabilities. Some chose to keep their cameras off, which how does a chair a meeting if 4 people decide they all want their cameras off?
So it does say watch and be seen in that paragraph.
Yes, but it is referring only to the chair.
Yeah.
No, but if we strike out the chair at the beginning and make it all members, then that bracketed area would
Okay, all
would apply.
members. All members of council.
What section are you looking at?
It's on page 47 and it is section 3 under 2.1, a D, under D.
Page 51
So 3.
on my document. Page 51 on my document. Same.
47.
47 on mine, sorry.
Really?
51 on mine.
Trying to figure out what section, number and heading is it?
If you look under amendments, and then we just amended section D, the section that we were looking at,
Yeah.
and underneath there it says III, so 1, 2, 3,
D3,
5.
Thank you.
5D3.
I think the confusion is some of us are looking at the previous report item, which was page 47, and then the 51 has the read it out.
I'm reading my agenda.
Oh, no, there's 2 parts.
Oh, you guys
Yeah.
are reading the,
Yeah,
The next note, if I.
just
may?
the amendment, yeah.
so I'm reading the red letter.
Thank you, Mayor Wickstrom. So this begs the question, if my camera's off, I'm going to be kicked out of the meeting or disciplined or what, how would that be enforced? And is it really fair to someone who say is camera shy? They don't like seeing themselves on camera. They've got a black eye. Maybe, there's all sorts of scenarios. And I know you guys like to see everyone on camera, but if I was up crying all night and at the meeting in the morning, I don't think I should have to have my camera on. So I think it's a pretty simplistic approach. And the fact that we're meeting electronically and meeting personally hasn't really changed our outcomes at this table and how we get along. That's the way I feel.
Councillor Barron and then Councillor Mitchell.
The intent of that, I says the member chairing a council or committee or commission meeting may participate electronically, but must participate with video capabilities, watch and be seen. We can get rid of the majority of members participating with video capabilities. The intent of that was to regulate the person who is chairing the meeting, correct?
Originally, yes, but the.
Okay,
Yep.
sorry. The other part of it, let's go back to that guy in the Lower Mainland who was sitting with his feet up, drinking wine, sleeping, having a cigarette. You could put all of that in to the same pot. Is the behavior that's expected when you're in a meeting, the expectations for the behavior. To me, is that belong here, or is that a separate bylaw, or is that a procedure or a policy? Because we can't sit here at the table, or none of us have tried it yet, to put our feet up and go to sleep, drink wine, walk out of the room. Everybody's etiquette here. I mean, I had to cough, so I got up and I walked to the back of the room. If I was on camera, that would be my expectation of my etiquette. So it almost feels like this piece here is addressing the chair and should stay in there as the chair, but then we need a different kind of, I don't know if it's a bylaw or a personnel policy that deals with online etiquette.
Good point.
Do we not have a code of conduct that we follow already?
That's on our
We
list.
had a code of conduct, but it was voted against. Councillor Mitchell?
I'm not sure if code of conduct would solve this problem. There's quite a bit of case law on requiring employees to use their camera when they're in Zoom meetings, which is really what we're talking about,
Mhm.
right? And the case law has fallen on both sides of the issue, depending on what judge it was in front of. But it falls mostly in favor of the employer. They can compel their employees to appear on camera in Zoom meetings for the most part, and they can get away with it usually, but not always. We're not employees. We're not employees. We need to keep that in mind. We're volunteers. And we get to make choices. And I think that if this comes up, and I don't know what the consequences are going to be if I don't follow that procedure, because it doesn't tell me in here, but I think we've got to be very careful about majoring in the minors, right? And yes, it might be rude for somebody not to have their camera on, or you might feel that it's rude, but they may have perfectly valid reasons for that. And I think as long as they're attending to the business of the town, it's none of our business. It's none of our concern if they turn their camera on or not. It simply isn't material to the job that we're doing, that we're volunteering to do for a very paltry amount of money, that we're not complaining about. But to have somebody come along and tell me that this is the way you must do that, I think that's pushing it a bit.
Councillor Barron?
Sorry.
So
Councillor Barron, please.
Sorry. Just decided that I'm going to sit on this side of the table for the rest of the meeting.
So I think that I can't support another rule to do with my job as a counselor, for the position that I've agreed to do as a counselor. I don't need another rule that's really completely irrelevant to how I do my job.
Okay. I don't know if there was actually a supported motion on the table. Was Councillor Downey's motion seconded?
I don't believe it was.
Okay. I tend to agree with you, Councillor Mitchell. I think the public will decide at election time if they're not happy. So.
You bet.
Okay, so I will ask, since there's not a seconder for that, I will ask, was there any other sections in here that council wanted to address? So I'll ask again if we could give procedure amendment bylaw number 708, 2022, first and second reading, please.
Motion?
Moved, seconded. Okay, any comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Okay, item 8B, we have the zoning amendment bylaw number 705, 2021. We were asked to bring forward any if there were any mistakes made. I know that, so I'm just going to bring up this email because it was listed. So we have, for myself, I had mentioned parts 9 through 11 are missing their subsections. So 9.1, 9.2, that's different from the track changes one. The track changes one did have it. And the other question that I had, and I'm not sure if our CAO had a chance to find out from the contractor, under definitions for urban agriculture, which is on page 75, page 12 of the zoning bylaw, the one that's proposed to go to the public. It does not have urban hens, though it does in the track changes with a note that says it will be removed pending public hearing, or sorry, possibly be removed pending the outcome of a public hearing. So my question was, how can we, if the public is looking at it and backyard hens isn't included, how can they comment on it?
Thank you. I apologize, Mayor Wixom. I did not get a chance to speak with our consultant today.
Then I would propose that that stays in there, because otherwise they'll get a document that doesn't have backyard hens, and when we go to public hearing, we won't be hearing from the public on it. They'll just make the assumption that we decided against it, which we have not at this time. And then also Councillor Cole mentioned, did you want to mention the ones? Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
So on C1 zoning 9.1.1, which is our downtown core, there's a cannabis retail description, and we have an amendment attached to that saying not on such and such lot. And I believe that that was for the medical clinic by the high school. In this document, we have changed the zoning of that property, so it is no longer C1. So in the interest of cleaning this bylaw up, it should just say cannabis retail. It should not reference that property, because that property is not C1.
Okay.
And it's zoned P1, I believe, which is not allowed to have cannabis retail. Does that make sense?
What page are you on, Councillor Cole?
I'm on page 98.
Are you following the track changes one?
No, I'm not on the track changes.
Oh, okay.
That could be.
Okay.
At any rate, if you just follow 9.1.1, you'll see the note there.
Okay, yep.
So I'd like to make a motion, we strike the additional exclusion for 9.1.1
Because it doesn't apply anymore.
B.
Seconder for that motion? Okay, any further discussion?
Yeah, I'm looking on my map and I see a white spot on there, so.
Mayor Wixom?
Yep.
I did include a note, the maps that we got seem to be old drafts in my package, and the ones online were accurate, and that was corrected. So
Okay.
I think if we're having any specific discussions on maps, we should bring it up on the screen, so we're all on the same page.
No, Councillor Mitchell?
On urban chickens 5.10, it says in section I, stored manure shall be kept in.
Sorry, what page, please? My apologies.
5.10, and I don't know what page to quote you. I've got 3 different page numbers on here. 81 of 216,
Okay.
page 21 of 107, or page 18. So
I'll go to page 81. I'll meet you there. Okay, go ahead.
Mayor Wixom, can we call the question on?
Section
Oh,
I.
sorry, hang on. Actually, Councillor Mitchell, there was a question on the table. That's,
Oh.
yeah, that was,
Yeah, we didn't vote
Sorry.
on
Yeah.
the cannabis.
all those in favor of removing that parcel allotment on
Oh.
page 80 or 96? Opposed, carried? Okay, go ahead, Councillor Mitchell.
I thought we took care of that. Bottom line, you're allowed to have, according to this, what they would be allowed to have if we pass this bylaw, 3 cubic meters of stored manure at any one time on the lot. Now, 3 cubic meters is equivalent to the size of a dumpster. I think we probably don't really want to see that much manure on somebody's lot. I think maybe a half a meter or even a quarter of a cubic meter would be lots.
Point.
You need to kind of figure that one out.
Also, I mean, you can make a motion. I will also just remind that second reading is just for us to be able to get to the public hearing, and we are still able to stay at second reading after the public hearing and make all of those tweaks and adjustments afterwards. But if you would like it to state something before it goes to public reading, then please make a motion.
I'll move that we reduce 3 cubic meters to 1/2 of a cubic meter.
From 3 to 0.5.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, discussion?
How much manure does 6 chickens make in a day?
I have no idea.
Depends how much straw and filler you put in their pen.
So is a half a cubic meter reasonable? Does that mean somebody's going to be bagging and getting rid of it on a daily basis? Is that a once a week kind of clean out?
4 chickens, you'd probably get a couple of weeks at the very least before you had a 1/2 cubic meter.
Okay.
Okay, Councillor Cole?
Thank you, Mayor Wickstrom. May I ask a question of staff? It says manure shall be disposed of in accordance with municipal bylaws. Without getting too complicated, does that just mean it has to go in the garbage?
I would assume so, yes.
Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor of reducing it to 0.5 cubic meters? Opposed? The motion passes. I don't see any other hands raised, so go ahead. Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Mayor Wickstrom. Yes, it probably doesn't sound like a big deal, but in C1, church is listed. None of our other zones say church. We have an overall provision that allows churches in all zones. So to clean this up, I'd like to make a motion to remove church from
page are you on?
C1.
See, it's page 98.
Page 98, 9.1.1, under the commercial C1 zone. And I just want to clean it up, because if you maybe missed the part at the front where it says churches are allowed in all zones, if you're looking at this, it looks like we just want churches in our downtown core, which is not the case.
The churches are in the rural residential A1 zone as well.
So either,
Churches are permitted in all zones. Yeah.
I
In
don't know that
rural
they are.
residential A1, it says principal uses, C church. Page 88 of 216, page 25, page 28 of 107.
So clean it up and we remove it from there too, but
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Consistency. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
If it's in the beginning, saying it's in all zones.
so I would amend my motion to include A1 as well.
To the direction where it says churches are allowed in any zone.
I believe that's at the start without having that right in front of me. Where's somebody?
Page 77, under 5.2.3.
thank you.
Daycares and places of worship. That's why we changed the language and didn't clean up the places of worship versus church.
Right, so I think places of worship is probably the correct thing to say these days, so.
I think
Okay.
so.
Either way, you're asking for them to be removed since it already states clearly that they're allowed, places of worship are allowed in any of our zones.
That's correct.
Okay,
I was just going to ask if you would maybe not mind changing your motion to have church removed from all zones as, you know, as principal uses, just in case you've seen agriculture, you've seen C1, but in case we're
Sure.
missing
Mhm.
any other ones.
If it could
Okay.
be reviewed, I'd agree to that. Thank you.
all those in favor? Opposed? Carried?
Thank you. My next item is to do with libraries. We have them in C1 zone, and I don't know if that was an oversight, but we did not include them in C2. They are in the public P1 zones. And I got to thinking, why would we be that opposed to a library in the C2 area? Still predominantly downtown. So I just wanted to flag that if anyone has any comments. I know the library was looking to relocate, and we don't have a lot of available land and opportunities in our town, so I'd like to make a motion. We include library and permitted uses in C2.
That motion, any discussion on that motion? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried.
Thank you. And 1/2 items, I think here. Again, under C2 so C2 has marina listed under permitted uses. And there is actually no land abutting the ocean, not even close for C2. And the opposite is true of C1. C1 does not have a marina listed under permitted uses, yet there's marinas in C1 and on that property. So my motion is as follows. We add marina to the permitted uses in C1, and we remove marina from permitted uses in C2.
I'll second that.
I feel like
Go ahead.
we had a conversation about that, and that is why that remains as it is. I'd have to dig through my notes, but I feel like we had a conversation with Kevin at that time regarding that classification for marinas.
Yeah.
can't
And do you
remember.
recall?
No.
Yeah, I know it had something to do with, we can't go through and something to do with, yeah, if we go through everything and see what's missing and add that this just by, I can't remember. Anyway, I would have to look at the,
Well, one would think, whether it stays in C2 or not, one would think it should be in C1. Because we've got 2 or 3, depending on how you look at it, marinas in C1. One of them's, 2 of them we're in charge of, so.
I would personally like to hear from Kevin. I mean, we could still give second reading to this bylaw, go to public hearing, and we could still change it afterwards. That is not an issue.
Actually, we have to give a notice to the people that are affected by it after we, right? The people whose property is affected by the zoning changes, we need to send them a notice after the second reading, am I correct?
Are Jackman's C2 for Marina?
We just,
Maybe that's why.
if I may, we changed them to C1. They were rural prior to our last
Correct,
meeting.
yeah.
So the question, I think that begs the question, Ryan, is it say marina right now under C1 and we're removing it?
It's not that, but if we change it after, if we do a second reading and we've given our notice, now we've complicated it because we have to re-give those notices again. So if it's something easy that we can change, let's change it. If not, probably isn't the end of the world if we just leave it the way it is, but it's nice to have things tidied up.
Well, I think that, I mean, if you would accept the amendment, just to add C2, and then it's on both.
Sure.
Doesn't second reading just get us to public consultation? And then once we get through public consultation and we come back and debate and we get it to final, that's when the letters go out saying we've changed your zoning, isn't it?
No, I believe it's at public hearing stage.
Thank you, Mayor Wickstrom. To clarify both questions, so only those properties that we will be changing the zoning on, so say from industrial to commercial, will get letters. So, it is perceivable that there will be changes to absolutely all of the zoning. So not every single resident and business in Port McNeill will be getting a letter, only those that their zoning is being changed. the effect of whether marina is included in there or not included in there won't substantiate an additional letter. To answer Councillor Barron's question is after second reading and prior to the public hearing, those letters will go out so that the voices of the people with their property potentially being changed can come to council and voice those concerns.
Thank you.
So actually, you said you'd be in favor, but you were the one who made the motion. So is it okay to just add that marina to C2 as well? Or do you still want to keep it as removing it?
I'll
from- or
amend
sorry,
to add marina to C1.
C1, thank you, sorry, I used the wrong term. Okay.
C2.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Any other things that
Nope,
were-
that's my list. Thank you.
Okay, any other things? No. Okay. So I'll ask if I can have a motion that the zoning bylaw 705/2021 receive second reading with the amendments that were noted this evening.
So moved.
Councillor Mitchell. Okay, any discussion? Go ahead, Councillor.
Nope, sorry, I was ready to vote.
Oh, okay, all those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Item 9A, harbor rate bylaw recommendations from the Harbor Advisory Committee. So the recommendations were included here and also emailed earlier. And what we have, the recommendation is the Harbor Advisory Group recommends that 1.2M and 1.2N Schedule C mooring rules and regulations pursuant to the Harbor Bylaw 683/2018 be amended to 1.2M to read scrape, sand, or paint vessel hulls in the water at the facilities, and 1.2N do repairs or maintenance on a vessel in the water that can cause the introduction of harmful substance to the water. Would you like to accept those recommendations? And if so, make a motion.
I move we
Councillor-
amend the bylaw as stated above.
Okay. I have a seconder for that, please. Councillor Downey. Okay. Comments, questions on the motion? Currently, M reads scrape, sand, or paint vessels in the water at the facilities, and N reads do repairs on a vessel in the water that can cause introduction of any harmful substance to the water.
So the discussion was to put hulls in there so that there was a definition of the works that could be done, because painting your wheelhouse, I think is the correct
It's
term,
different, yeah.
is different than trying to catch a low tide and on a rising tide, painting the bottom part of your boat. And it was to give something that was definable, measurable, to give some teeth. And as well, putting in the maintenance part, because to eliminate, again, that little bit of, well, I'm not doing a repair, I'm doing maintenance. Well, no, if you're doing maintenance that could cause a harmful substance to go into the water, we don't want you doing that either.
Okay, comments?
May I ask what that allows a fisherman to do? It's allowing him to do something more than he could do before, am I right?
I think what I understand, and Councillor Barron, you can correct, is that it's being slightly more prescriptive as to what can be done that can cause introduction of harmful substance to the water. If it doesn't cause the introduction of a harmful substance to the water, they can do it.
Then I certainly agree with that concept, but when you put the word can cause, you're right back where you started, because of course, any activity that involves maintenance can cause the introduction of a harmful substance. So I think it has to be that you can do maintenance or repairs on your vessel as long as it doesn't cause the introduction of harmful substances. What the Fisheries Act says and is it's illegal to introduce a deleterious substance to the water, right? And I think that's what this is aiming to achieve, but it isn't saying that, because can cause means may cause, right? It could happen. So you can't do it because it might happen. And I don't think we've already got that. We don't need it. We need something that allows them to be adults and protect their environment. And there's a number of marinas that do allow that type of thing without, but with the caveat that they protect the environment. I think that's what this is trying to think. So I just like to see that can remove and put an S on clause. Do repairs or maintenance on a vessel in the water that does not cause the introduction of a harmful substance to the water, I guess is the way I would like to see that.
Is that not currently the case right now? Can people not, they're absolutely not allowed? I'll ask our harbor manager, they're absolutely not allowed to do repairs on a vessel, even if it does not cause the introduction of harmful substance on the water?
So we allow them to do repairs and maintenance in the harbor as long as it's not introducing harmful substances in the water and they're not, as well as they're not like welding, producing sparks because we have wood docks.
Is that what the bylaw says?
The bylaw currently says only it covers repairs, which was why the committee wanted to put maintenance in there to give the harbor staff the ability to enforce that if it was maintenance, it fell under the same. It's trying to take the guesswork out of it was what it was.
I certainly agree with that.
Councillor Cole?
Thank you, Mayor Wickstrom. So, yeah, I'm taking pause to Councillor Mitchell's suggestion to remove can. That sort of leaves the guesswork out of staff. You know, on Monday, this person can do that, but Tuesday that, you know, different staff. So, but if staff's walking around and they see the introduction of a harmful substance in the water, then they'll jump to action and take action on that. But I think we might avoid the situations wherever there's this gray area on what can and cannot. We just don't want, the rule is we don't want people to introduce harmful substances in the water.
Absolutely.
And however they go about it, or if they screw up, then they'll pay the price.
The motion is to accept the harbor committee's
Recommendations.
at this point. Can we call the question
May-
on that?
Mayor Wickstrom, may I ask a question of the harbor manager? Would you be amenable to changing 1.2N to do repairs or maintenance on the vessel in the water as long as it does not cause the introduction of harmful substances to the water?
Before she answers that question, though, the thing is you have a double negative because at the very top of Schedule C, it says a person shall not. So you can't go that doesn't, because then you have a double negative. So if you look at on Schedule C that I had emailed everybody earlier, which actually lists out the mooring rules and regulations, 1.2 says a person shall not, and then all of those letters follow afterwards. So
Okay, let me change that. Do repairs or maintenance on the vessel in the water that causes the introduction of a harmful substance to the water. Is it negative? You be amenable to that? Does that get your intent, what you're after? Clause just leaves it subjective to harbor staff. You scrape that rail, paint might go in the water, therefore you're not allowed to scrape the rail. That's what the rules are now. You need to lighten up on it, make it possible to do their maintenance.
But if you're scraping the rail and you could put something in there, how does not, I don't understand what you're asking for how that,
I'm asking for the staff not to be able to say that activity could potentially cause the introduction of harmful substances, therefore you can't do it, because that's what we got now. And there's all kinds of ways of taking paint off wood that don't put anything in the water. I was researching it, and one of them is you use a vacuum operated sander. And so it sucks all that stuff up as soon as it comes loose, it's sucked into a vacuum cleaner. You know, there's lots of ways that they can do it. Fishermen are gonna have to be a little more resourceful and figure out ways to do stuff that doesn't put crap in the water. But we gotta let them do it. Gotta give them that opportunity. A little guidance, I think. And so I just don't wanna see something that's, that doesn't allow them to do anything.
Well, I would like to say though that it's the perception that they can't, and we haven't spoken to every single user. Some on council may have spoken to one or two, and so, you know, to make a blanket statement that that's what we have now might not be totally accurate.
That's what our bylaw says.
I know, but you, Councillor Mitchell, are stating that that is what's happening, and that's what the staff is doing. So.
Sorry, that's what the bylaw is directing staff to do right now currently. That's what it says.
Yeah, and so
We need
we.
to make it so that it says they can paint, but they gotta be protecting the environment. I think that's what the intent of this is.
Okay. Well, Councillor Barron made the motion, so.
I just wanted to add, we had 3 users who were at that meeting, 2 of which who have wooden boats. And this was what they came up with, so. Again,
So the motion currently is you're not accepting a friendly amendment then?
Nope.
Okay, the motion is, as the recommendation was stated, that can cause introduction of a harmful substance in water. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion's carried. So the recommendations will be brought forward and incorporated into the harbor management bylaw. Okay, new business report to council on the general election, October 15th, 2022 general election. So there's 2 segments to this. One is approving the budget and the other one is for the appointment of the elections officers. What's your pleasure, council?
Motion approval of the budget for
Okay,
$10,000.
I'll second that.
discussion on that? All those in favor? Opposed, carried. Okay,
I'll motion that the appointments be tabled until such time as staff can provide us a report with a bit more information around capacity and workload that comes with this
These positions?
appointment, with the appointment.
okay, seconder for that motion? Okay. Any discussion on that? Go ahead, Councillor Cole.
Yes, I guess a question for staff. So apologies if it's in your report, but does the CAO have to be the chief elections officer, or it could be somebody outside of the organization?
Yes, absolutely.
Were you asking about outside the organization?
Outside of the organization, yeah.
Contractors.
That is an idea that is floated at the regional district. It is considerably more though. The budget would be probably 10,000 would be for the contractor alone. So just that
Yeah,
council's.
just
Yep.
concern of, we always seem to be putting lots of pressure on our staff. So if this is an area where they could offload that responsibility, probably worth considering.
My hope was that we would get a sense of that from the report because they would tell us how much the training was, not dollars wise, but the time involved in the training and then the prep. So we'd get an idea if it's
And make a
one
decision.
day or if it's 10 days, then yeah, we might consider a contractor or somebody else to do it, or we may
Mhm.
have a way to do it in-house.
Before I call the question, go ahead, Councillor Downey.
We haven't really had a discussion as to how many advanced voting days we'll have either and the timing of those. I see in here that there's a note that staff will receive, and I don't know if that means hired staff or does that mean our current staff will receive pay over and above for approximately $3,500. So The question is what opportunities do we offer to our citizens for advance voting? Because in the past, it's usually been during business hours, which it doesn't work for many people.
And so my understanding is that's the next step. Once they'll be appointed, they'll, will they come with a plan? And I know that there is a legislative thing where once those are appointed, we are hands off. We don't have control anymore because we are elected officials who will be running, and so we are to be hands off. But correct me if I'm wrong, are we able to make a suggestion at some point of the extending hours?
Absolutely, I'm always open to suggestions. Yeah, it's just, yeah, I would caution all elected officials on how specific those requests come, just so that there's no appearance that it's leading an election.
But would it be fair to say that report that I just spoke of would include, say, 2 Saturdays or 3 evenings? Because that would be letting us know what the workload was. And then at that point, is that where we could suggest that it could be increased to have more evenings? Is that too specific? Is that too specific?
Like I said, I'm open to all suggestions. So.
All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, we have item 10B, Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program. The recommendation in the report is that staff submit an application using McElhaney Engineering for grant funding for the water system upgrades through the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program. I can read out the whole thing, but it's stated on page 172. It's quite a lengthy motion. Actually, I should for the public. From the British Columbia Green Infrastructure Environmental Quality for $1,200,000 and agree to budget for any cost overruns. And further, that the town of Port McNeill include $300,000 of our contribution and $1.2 million in the 2020. I'm going to thank you. There's a hole punched in there. 2026 5-year financial plan. Oh, what? Sorry.
Yeah, Public Works Manager Julian Allen has an update to this file. So prior to a motion, perhaps we could allow him to bring that update.
Okay, certainly. Julian, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much, CAO Pete. We just finished a meeting discussing this progress on this what we are proposing, and it looks like the updated costs actually equate to about $330,000. That's including some ineligible legal fees. That is not uncommon with these this grant funding. Basically, even without that, it equates to about an extra $100,000 of funding. So the ask is not 300, but 330,000. That would be our portion. And apologies for a typo there. If you look at the background, our portion is 26.67%, not 23.33, as put into the report, just for the record. So the ask is 330, not 300, for the 1.2 million grant, and the recommendation obviously reads reflecting that on the back page, on page 172.
When you were saying cost increase though, Julian, is it 1.2 or is it 1.3?
Nope. No, it's thank you, Mayor Wickstrom. No, the clarification here is that the ask was calculated at 300,000 for our portion. Yep. It's the 1.2 stays the same. It's just the with the ineligible costs, etc., and the slight discrepancies, like in the cost analysis. it equals 330,000, not 300.
Yeah, I understand that now. I realize what I asked. Sorry.
Yep,
Apologies.
yep,
Councillor
no,
Danby, go ahead.
No problem at all.
Does this request for funding include all the engineering costs?
Yes, this is all in at 1.2 million for the upgrades.
Okay.
Councillor Cole?
Thank you, Mayor Wickstrom. Two questions. I guess the first one is, if we're unsuccessful in this grant application, how much is it going to cost us to apply? I'm not so worried about like staff time, but the engineering, I guess.
I don't actually have that figure. I can't really give you that figure, unfortunately, Councillor Cole. I can get an estimated cost if we're unsuccessful.
If we're unsuccessful, there's still some value there with the plan and the engineering for down the road?
Absolutely, 100%. As with all of this this grant funding that we're pursuing, there's actually, there is definitely value in pursuing like the application as described, and there's no sign that this ICIP funding is going to be discontinued anytime soon. So yeah, it's definitely money not wasted.
And I notice we don't have a CFO here or anything, but like, I guess, is there money in our capital reserve? Like, maybe a question for you, Julian, or our CAO. Like, do we have money in our reserve for water?
Before the departure of our last CFO, I can actually say that it appears that the funds are there in surplus, in the water, etc. Surplus, and I'd have to confirm that, obviously.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Mitchell?
I guess the only question I have is that this is the third intake, and I don't believe you participated in the first two. And we know that generally, if you don't get the first one or the second one, you're hoping you're going to get the third one. So how many spots are really left? So how much do you want to invest in something that's probably got a fairly low probability of being successful? Because really, we didn't apply on intake 1 or intake 2, so we haven't shown any interest. Why? Because we just discovered it, or because we were too darn busy to do it? I don't know. I'm a little bit reluctant to spend that kind of unknown amount of money on engineering for something that has a low probability of success. Unless there's more intakes coming, it sounds like this is the last rush. That's the way it was presented. I thought, is that true? Is this the last chance at this money?
No, but I think that we, through email, had given the go-ahead, and this is a ratification. So whether or not the applying for the funding goes through, we've already given approval for McElhaney to do the engineering work.
Didn't vote in favor of it, okay.
Resolutions
like that.
We didn't make a resolution, they pulled us. Yes, go ahead, Councillor Barron, and then I'll call the question.
If it didn't go through on this grant one, would this not be then a shelf-ready?
Yes.
Project, and that's what we keep saying we need, are shelf-ready projects?
Correct.
Thank you.
Call the question. All those in favor of applying? Opposed? It's carried. Okay, item C, you've had a chance to read the mayor's report. I did want to mention what came afterwards, and I have registered for it, was the engagement on updates to British Columbia's geographical naming principles, policies and procedures. I sent the information to everybody, I believe this afternoon, as well as what the consultant gave. So if you want to participate in these meetings, they are on February 1st, 2nd, 8th, and 9th. And you just have to email and you can be a part of the public consultation. Any council reports, verbal updates? Councillor Downey?
The Health Network is in the middle of reviewing their StratCat plan for the next 3 years. And so that work is underway. If any of you are interested, I can punt a survey off to you and you can put in your input. Yes?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes, please. Okay, any other updates from councillors? Seeing none, we have no items from in camera to be made public, but I do need a motion to go in camera. That council go in camera, closing the meeting to the public under the Community Charter, Section 91K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at their preliminary stages and that in view of the council could reasonably be expected to harm interests of the municipality if they were held in the public. Moved. Seconder for that motion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. I'll ask if there are any, I don't think there's any media, so any questions from the public? Go ahead.
Mayor Wickstrom, Council, Brad Adams, Conservation Officer. Just wanted to bring up one thing about I know you guys are putting in some stuff into place for bylaws about chickens and everything else. Has there been any bylaws put in place for enforceability of these bylaws related to chickens, attractants, husbandry, and how those are going to be managed moving forward now that there's the possibility of people having chickens in the town?
I believe that will be the next step. I'll look at our CAO. Have a comment on that or not?
There is enforcement availability through the zoning bylaw in general. So yeah, if aspects of the zoning bylaw are not met, we do have enforcement measures that we can take.
And I think also one of the things mentioned around the council table was that if we have reports on what bylaws infractions are being acted upon, then if we see that there is a disproportionate amount in one area or the other, then council knows that we need to either look at a bylaw enforcement officer or make some policies around specific areas.
Okay, and has there been any consideration to having an updated hazard assessment done for the town of Port McNeill in that respect?
Do you say that again, please?
Has there been any consideration to get an updated hazard assessment done for the community in that respect? For the update for wildlife hazard assessment that was, I think it was done in 2006.
That's when you came and spoke about bears and berries and yeah. At this point, no, but we are doing a strategic planning at our next committee of the whole, and certainly we can discuss that and put that on our list. I would suggest also, if you feel that there are issues that we should be aware of as a conservation officer, please write and let us know of those so that we can address that.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Councillor Barron, I think wanted
I was
to.
going to say, we had also discussed the possibility of, much like you have to license your dog, you would essentially apply for a permit to have the chickens or a license for some sort of way so that we actually know where the chickens are, as opposed to, just somebody getting them. And then if we are seeing a lot of complaints or rodents or anything, at least we know the attractant is there. So we did discuss, we didn't come to a landing spot, but we did discuss a way that would be put into the animal control bylaw.
We're currently at the stage where we want to hear from the public before we make an ultimate decision on whether chickens would be allowed. So, Councillor Cole?
We did get a letter from you urging electric fences, and we did proceed with that in our draft bylaw. So, but we did not for bees because these guys have never seen Winnie the Pooh.
Okay.
Jokes, but
Understandably, it's just there are some husbandry practices that we see throughout the year that are really effective, and if it's something that wants to be addressed, you feel free to outreach to us and let us kind of field those questions, because we've seen failures and we've seen successes when it comes to husbandry, and sometimes it's all about the fencing, the securement, and the management. You guys put a motion forward earlier today about minimizing the amount of manure that can be stored on site. That's obviously going to minimize the attractant, but there's also other portions of that are going to be also issues that are going to kind of rear their heads. So just wanted to see what was in place currently.
Awesome. And if you, any information that you bring to us as well, you can come as a citizen even and be part of the public hearing and give that information to us also. And I would encourage you actually to do that either prior to or at that time so that we can receive all the information and make an informed decision. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? A motion to adjourn and go in camera? Moved, seconded. All those in favor? Opposed, carried. We'll take a very, very quick break.